Thanks, Dana, and welcome everyone. We're very excited to be kicking off the NET Globus program. We completed the service evaluation over a month ago and shared a little bit about it in December at Technology Exchange, but we're happy to have the official launch today and just wanted to cover a few logistics as we get started. The participants, attendees, your microphones and video are turned off, but we do welcome you to submit questions via the Q&A functionality. And we'll try to get to all of them. They'll be moderated. We have a few people on the panel to help with answering questions. So we look forward to hearing from the attendees. We're also recording this event to make it available through the Internet2 YouTube channel and are available on the NET Globus wiki page. So you can share with your colleagues afterwards. So our agenda today is brief. It's basically, after the introductions, we're going to learn a little bit more about what Globus is and how we came to evaluate it through the NET service evaluation process. We're excited to hear a campus story from the University of Maryland and then to go over the NET contract and the pricing model and ways to engage. So thank you. Next slide. So briefly introductions. I'm Gyenis, Program Development Manager in the NET program at Internet2. I'm joined by my colleague, Dana Voss, who's a Senior Program Manager. And then from Globus, we have Vas Vasiliadis, and from the University of Maryland, Sam Porter. So Voss, tell us about Globus and share with our audience why they should know about Globus, and we look forward to hearing from your expertise. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks everybody for joining. I noticed a couple of familiar names in the attendee list, but for those that are not familiar with Globus, we are a nonprofit service that has been developed and has been operated by the University of Chicago for almost 15 years now. At SC25, we will be 15 years old. So it's been around a while. We're really focused. We're a mission-driven group within the university, working with researchers around the world to really make their research more effective and provide this infrastructure in a sustainable manner. And that's kind of a big part of the focus, which I'll talk about later on. As far as adoption, just to give you a sense for where Globus is used, as I said, we do have deployments around the world, including the majority of the R1, R2 universities, as well as smaller institutions. That's been a big focus for us the last couple of years. So we do have many thousands of users that are taking advantage of the service every day. As far as the different components of the service, we started out with a reliable file transfer service many years ago. We've since added a substantial number of capabilities, including the ability to share data with collaborators through a unified interface that allows you to look at data on different storage systems in the same way, if you will. More recently, over the past 4 or 5 years, we've added features like a search capability where you can build search indexes. And a couple of years ago, we added a remote computation capability, which I'll discuss in a while. And bringing it all together, we have an automation platform that allows you to create end-to-end sequences of actions. And all of these capabilities are available through a web app, which is the primary mode of usage, but we also have a command line interface and also platform as a service APIs that you can use to integrate Globus into your own applications, your own research. So if you look at the high architecture at a pretty high level, we have this hybrid model where you as institutional IT providers own a number of resources, own and operate resources, either on-prem or in the cloud or elsewhere. Some of these might be shared, large resources, instruments, labs, facilities, and so on. So what our model is, one where you deploy one or more agents on these resources, and those agents make the resources accessible and available through the Globus service, which is a hosted service that we operate as a single multi-tenant service for everybody who's using Globus. There are two types of agents. You can see there, the one is the Globus Connect agent, and that is the one that makes data storage systems available through Globus. And then the other one is Globus Compute, which, as the name suggests, makes a compute resource accessible. All of these resources are sort of brought together through this security fabric, which we call Globus Auth. So this provides a unified layer for identity and access management and access control. Next slide. So I'll talk a little bit first about the data ecosystem. As I said, we started out with secure, reliable, managed file transfer many years now. We subsequently added the ability to access data through HTTPS, so web-based access, and then the ability to share data with collaborators at other institutions that don't have local access to your storage systems, which is pretty much the case in many research endeavors. So you can do that through the Globus platform, and you can do that using a consistent user experience, irrespective of what the file system is underneath. So you can see on the left in that little curved bar the various cloud providers and other storage systems, some on-prem, some managed by others, but we do support a wide variety of systems, and we continue to add to this list based on what our users are asking for out in the community. And on the next slide, I've got just a subset of these systems just to give you a glimpse as to how they look. So I mentioned the experience is consistent. So I'm showing 4 different storage systems here. Behind the scenes, they obviously have very different access modalities if you go to each of their respective websites or applications. But we've tried to present this unified view so it looks like you're just browsing your local file system. And from this control pane, if you will, you can move data between them as if they were, just dragging folders between, different parts of your own hard drive. And you can also share data if that's something that's been enabled on the storage system. You can share data through Globus without having to be aware of all the different idiosyncrasies of the sharing mechanisms that each of these cloud providers offer. The next thing I want to talk briefly about is the compute ecosystem. So this is something that we launched officially about 2 years ago, but it's been in production use actually for the better part of 5 years now, since early COVID days. And this is a mechanism by which you can launch, if you will, a compute job or submit a function basically to be run on a remote compute resource, and do that through a programmatic interface that is the same, irrespective of how that compute resource is managed behind the scenes. So if you have a campus cluster that's running Slurm or something else, some other resource manager, you can submit a job to that remotely using the same interface. You could submit the same job or some other type of compute request to an Amazon EC2 instance, or to a Kubernetes cluster somewhere else, or even run a function remotely on some system that you've stood up. So again, the focus here is on really trying to abstract away or hide the complexities of the individual compute system implementations and let the researchers just submit their jobs. But at the same time maintain the right security controls and access permissions. So that's all kind of tied together. Next slide. One case where we use this, as I said, early COVID days, lots and lots of research, everybody, all hands on deck. We had a number of these types of workloads where there were many different types of analysis that needed to be done using different classes of compute systems, and Globus Compute provided the interface for accessing all of them. And on the next slide, I'm going to talk about here the automation services that we provide. So this is a set of services that bring together all these different capabilities, the data management, the compute, and so on, allows you to define a series of actions that you want to perform on the data, move it around, compute on it, share it, and so on, and then delegate the execution of that to Globus, and Globus will reliably or sort of orchestrate that whole process. It'll keep you notified, and so on. That's a service we call Flows. It's being increasingly used in a number of environments. On the next slide, I have one example here of where you can automate sort of a typical instrument flow. In this case, I'm showing cryo-EM example. And this is the same design pattern is fairly common on other instruments, where you pull data off the instrument, do some analysis. Maybe there's a human in the loop that's looking at it, doing something else with it, and then there might be some subsequent compute, and then you want to move that data somewhere else to make it available, perhaps to the rest of your project team or to other collaborators. So you can do that. And then if you hit the button one more time, Dana, there's also the option to even push metadata into a search index and make the data a lot more accessible and findable through that mechanism as well. One additional comment I'll make here before wrapping it up is we have had the enterprise in mind since day one, although we've kind of stepped into it coming from the research computing side of things. But we've built Globus with a view to abiding by different compliance regimes. You can see some of them listed here. We continue to work on this. We actually recently hired a full-time compliance person. So we really are focused on that, as I'm sure many of you are working through those kinds of initiatives. But we can support all kinds of data management, all the way from completely open science data to protected PHI and so on. Just a quick couple notes on our sustainability model. So our development over the years has been funded by various agencies that you can see here and other sources of funds. Increasingly, excuse me, our operations, on the next slide, I've got a few logos of subscribers that support us. So we have a subscription model. And on the next slide here, I'll just talk briefly about what that looks like. So it's a freemium model where some services, mostly around moving data and so on, are available free to anybody who's engaged in nonprofit research. But if you choose to subscribe, you get access to a lot of these other advanced capabilities that I mentioned. And in particular, if you wanted to access a lot of the different storage systems, that's also part of the subscription model. And that's one of the things, as Dana said, that motivated us joining the NET Plus program, is as people are adopting more of these cloud system storage. So I think that's all I had prepared. So thank you.
Thank you, Vas. So I do see we have one question so far, and I want to invite others. If you want to go ahead and answer this one live.
Sure.
Is Globus IPv6 enabled? And if so, is there any advantage using versus IPv4?
It's really for you to decide on the advantage. Yes, so it is IPv6 enabled. We actually have to do that to comply with some of the federal regulations. We are deployed in lots of national labs and other federal environments. So yes.
Great. Another one's popped in, and keep them coming. Will Globus licensing be lower cost with NET Plus? I think that's something we're going to address a little bit after, when Dana talks a little bit about the program and engagement. I think we'll wait for that one, if that's all right. All right, and then a request to share a link to the slide at some point. Yes, we do send out the slides to everyone who registered for the webinar, so you will be getting an email with that. I wanted to just talk a little bit about how we add services to NET Plus portfolio. As many of you may know, we only have about 25 services that have been evaluated, that are currently in the NET Plus service portfolio. We've had some come and go, but we keep the the portfolio focused and limited by design because of the intense engagement we have through our program features. But when we're looking to add new services to the NET Plus program, we work with the community, with our research and education members, to determine if there's an unmet need in the market for specific technology, like an emerging technology, thinking of, yes, things like the developments we're seeing with AI. Or is there a challenge with an existing supplier, whether it be around contract terms, the pricing, where the community can come together and make a difference? And lastly, are there at least 5 Internet2 member institutions that are willing and able to work on the collaborative effort for a NET Plus service evaluation? And in the case of Globus, I think we had a little bit of a combination and a somewhat unique situation. And I wanted to invite Dana to talk a little bit about how we arrived at Globus as a solution for the community based on some work she did with the Cloud Storage Working Group.
Thank you, Tara. I'm sure you all remember 2021 when we started to see limits being imposed on storage. Google was the first company to announce they were introducing storage limits. Microsoft followed. So during those times when universities had to make the switch from unlimited storage to an environment where storage had to be managed very closely, we worked with our cloud storage working group. Over 60 institutions were a part of the cloud storage working group. And one of the areas of focus was on data migration at that time. So we issued a request for information at that time with help from the Cloud Storage Working Group. And that same group of universities helped us rank and rate the responses we received from a number of vendors. And Globus was one of the service providers that made it in the top 2. So we move forward with the service evaluation process that Tara just described.
Thank you. When we say that a service has been evaluated through the NET Plus program, we just want to set the expectation foundation for what that really means. There's a lot of effort that goes in through volunteers in the Internet2 community, as well as with the service provider and our team, to ensure that the service meets the requirements of a NET Plus offering. And so in this case with Globus, it was very clear that we gained a lot of this information through the RFP process, but also in just their profile and how they have already been working with the R&E community over the years. So what it really means is they've committed, and it's an ongoing process, to accessibility, privacy, security, other compliance needs that are so important to our community, but also that they're collaborating with us on their sales practices, their business model, which we have the pricing question, and then of course the community contract. So all these things that are important that contribute to the alignment in the NET Plus program. And one other thing I wanted to note is that Globus also was an early participant in the Internet2 Cloud Scorecard, where they answered questions that aligned with these requirements in NET Plus. Next slide. So the service evaluation process that we followed for Globus after the RFP process was to bring together campus participants in the universities that are noted here, with University of Maryland as our sponsoring institution. And we're happy to have Sam Porter and Kevin Hildebrand from the University of Maryland available today for the webinar to share some of their experiences. There are resources available to the community, which we can send out in the follow-up email, the technical service evaluation report. So in that report, the community did a really good job of documenting some of the use cases, the feature functionality, how they were using the service, and then some desires for feature functionality improvements. And this leads to an ongoing relationship where when we have at least a minimum of 10 subscribers to the NET Globus program, we'll be able to establish a service advisory group for that ongoing dialogue with the community and Globus and Internet2 to ensure that the service continues to meet the needs of the community. So now I'll turn it over to Sam Porter from the University of Maryland to talk about their experience with Globus, and also express my appreciation to him as the sponsor for the service evaluation. Sam?
Thanks, Tara. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Porter. For the last 5 years, I led the research computing team at University of Maryland. And then actually in December, I moved into the different role, Director of Educational Technology. Just to start off, I'll talk a little bit about our university and then kind of go through the path that led us to getting a tool like Globus and deciding to sponsor the evaluation process. So UMD is a decently sized research institution. We have a large population of students, and we do a good amount of research. But I also wanted to just highlight that we have 12 colleges and schools, each with their own departments and individual units. And I think an important factor here is that while we have a lot of central resources on campus, a lot of these colleges and schools actually maintain their own research resources, probably like a lot of other schools. And so that was a factor that will come into play later, and how I think we identified Globus as being important. Next slide, please. So the journey kind of really begins 5 years ago. Our Division of IT, so that's our central IT organization. That's the organization our research computing team falls under. 5 years ago, we had a strategic plan exercise, and one of the 5 pillars was to enhance research technology. And so out of that strategic plan, there were a number of specific objectives, but one of those was to really evaluate our portfolio of services at the time and create a 3-year plan that would meet any of the needs that we identified in that process. Next slide, please. So to really look at our portfolio, we took a couple different angles. The first was conducting a kind of a survey of all of the researchers on campus. A lot of the respondents ended up being graduate students, but that was okay. These are a lot of the folks who use a lot of the resources. And so we conducted a campus-wide survey to understand the services people were using, what were their needs, what were their awareness of the different tools that were available. We also looked at a lot of our peer institutions and talked to peers about the services they offered. We looked through their service catalog, their portfolios, and tried to get an understanding of whether their services were centralized, decentralized, that sort of thing. And then we also leveraged that. It was at the time it was a new resource, but I think now it's hopefully more widely known. But the research capabilities model, and this is I call it kind of a scorecard for capturing your campus's ability to meet the needs of research across 5 different facings. This was developed by the Campus Research Computing Consortium. Definitely check it out if you've never heard of it. But we used that to also identify some of the gaps and where we needed to maybe make some investments. Next slide, please. And so while some of the things that we identified from the assessment and from talking to people was that, as I mentioned earlier, we kind of have a decentralized support of research, especially when it comes to storage. And so on top of the kind of decentralized aspect of storage that maybe leads to lack of knowledge of what's really out there on campus and how do they kind of move data around, there was also at the time a changing cloud storage landscape. We saw a lot of different providers make pretty significant changes to their pricing, or a lot of these folks were offering unlimited storage at the time, and I think some of them changed that outlook. So we had to make some adjustments there. And then there's also been a pretty significant increase in requirements for research data from federal sponsors and sponsors in general, both in terms of needing to share data, but also to restrict access to data when it's not to be shared widely. And so all that in mind, we kind of identified the need for a tool that would bring all of this together and provide those capabilities. We heard, earlier that over the past 5 years, Globus added a lot of capabilities, not just around storage and or around data transfers, but around compute and automation. So we decided that that was a tool that would be useful for our campus to have a subscription for. We also had folks on campus who are using the I guess, no-cost options. So with that in mind, we basically, I started to talk to some peers. Next slide, please. So I started to talk to some peers who said that if Globus was in the NET Plus portfolio, it would be beneficial to their schools. I think we also identified that it would be beneficial for us in our own procurement processes if it was part of the NET Plus portfolio. I've been on the service advisory board for Google Cloud for a number of years now, so I've had experience from that perspective. And then I also did participate in one of the other recent service evaluations, so I had some experience in that process. So knowing that, we decided to sponsor this evaluation, and we decided to do that because of the collaborative approach. It lets us work with experts from multiple schools and benefit from their knowledge. And then it also gave us a chance to, and I think Globus allows this anyway, but it gave us a chance to, together with other schools, test the product, figure out, what are the things that might be opportunities to work on, and give us a chance to work with Globus directly on those sorts of things. And then looking to the future, I'm in a new role, but I'm hoping that the way that this is going to work, this is really only a development in the last couple months. So really what I'm looking to do, or what I hope we're going to be doing, is using Globus to really bring the ecosystem of decentralized storage, campus labs, different instruments on campus, bring those together, connect to our high-performance computing system, and then also to leverage the connectors to connect all of our different cloud storage offerings. And I think it's gonna be a really important resource to, I think, as Vas said, abstract away the complexity on campus. That was really one of the biggest takeaways from the survey we conducted all those years ago now, I guess, was that people often just weren't aware of what resources were available, and not necessarily sure how to connect to them. And so in that way, I'm really hoping that we can take Globus and use it to connect all these different parts of the ecosystem together. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam. I think what you said really aligns well with our mission in NET Plus, to convene the research and higher ed community to leverage that collective scale and expertise to adopt and optimize cloud technologies, especially a service such as Globus that really works across all the different cloud systems. So we really appreciate your participation and wish you all the best in your new role, and hopefully you'll be involved in NET Plus and in other ways. So now let's take some time to talk a little bit about the NET Plus program, NET Plus Globus program itself, and get to that important question about the pricing. So Dana?
Thank you, Tara. Hi, everyone. I'm a senior program manager as part of NET Plus, and I have been working with Google for a number of years, and have been working with Globus over the last couple of years as we've been going through the service evaluation and then putting together the contract for the NET Plus Globus program. At this time, the eligibility for the NET Plus Globus program is limited to our Internet2 higher education members. In terms of the contract, we started with Globus's customer agreement. And those of you who are familiar with NET Plus, and it sounds based on the questions that many of you are very familiar with NET Plus, we have a number of standard terms and conditions, which we include in most of our NET Plus programs. So when we started to work with Globus, we looked at their 10 most negotiated terms, and we inserted the NET Plus terms in the NET Plus Globus customer agreement, in the NET Plus Globus customer agreement. So it's basically a blend of the standard customer agreement that I know some of you have signed with Globus, and we've layered on top of that the NET Plus negotiated terms. In terms of the business model, and I'll get to that on the next slide, we've put together custom bundles and pricing, which is only available through the NET Plus program, and the annual increases are capped at 5%. So in terms of the business model, you can see here the options that are available through the NET Plus contract. The pricing is available upon request. We are happy to share that, and if you would like to see the contract, if you'd like to see the pricing, please send us an email at netplus@internet2.edu. But in essence, there are 9 different bundles. The subscriptions are annual fees that cover the entire institution. The connectors, all the connectors are covered, and that link will take you to the extensive list of connectors that is available. I saw a question in the chat about Box. And yes, Box used to be a part of the NET Plus portfolio, but we sunset the program a number of years ago, and we do not have Box in our NET Plus portfolio at this time. The important thing to note about the BAA subscription is that the pricing we have in our contract requires that the customer uses the University of Chicago Business Associate Agreement. For those institutions who might want to negotiate their own Business Associate Agreement, the pricing would be custom. So I know many of you are already using Globus, have a direct contract with Globus. How is the NET Plus offering different? As I've mentioned, the contract has a number of advantages. It has NET Plus terms, and we prepared the procurement analysis worksheet, which compares the terms in the Globus customer agreement with the NET Plus customer agreement. And again, the bundles are available only through our program. That being said, we do have a clause in our contract with Globus, which requires that if you're interested in switching from your current contract to the NET Plus contract, that the level of spend would be maintained. But what that means is that you would be getting more for the same amount of money through the NET Plus program. I listed here a few links to the blog announcement, which may have a little bit more information, Globus announcement of the program. And as I mentioned, if you reach out to us, we are happy to share the customer agreement, the procurement analysis worksheet. The customer agreement has the pricing. And then we have some links to the frequently asked questions, which covers the details that are pertinent to the NET Plus Globus program. The cloud scorecard, which Tara mentioned, which has more details about Globus, and then finally our program wiki. And again, we'll share the presentation after the webinar today to all of those who have attended our webinar today. I also wanted to mention that we have a couple of workshops coming up. Those dates are somewhat tentative, but we are firming them up as we speak. So keep an eye out for announcements about those two workshops that are going to be coming up later in the summer. The Internet2 Community Exchange is coming up at the end of April, and it's going to be in Anaheim, California. The information is available on our website, and we hope you will consider participating. Vas will be there and will be available. Many of us are going to be there, and we'll be happy to answer questions about the program. And finally, I'm listing here in links to how you can contact either us at Internet2 or Globus. Also, Globus has upcoming office hours and events, which are listed on their website, which is linked here. And with that, we will go into the questions section, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Tara to moderate the questions.
Thank you, Dana. I tried to put some links in there as we were going along, and we may have a few from Globus to put in as well to try to make it easier for you all to reference material. We're fortunate to have Kevin and Sam from University of Maryland. If you have questions about their experience with Globus, give everybody a minute or so if there are any other questions to add. Or any closing comments, Voss?
I just wanted to reiterate, I put this in the chat. I'm not sure if everybody saw it, but as another resource, we do have our annual user conference, which will be in April this year. And if you can't attend that in person, it's an in-person conference only at this point. But there are virtual workshops that we do ahead of that, some tutorials, three sets of tutorials, introductory ones. So if you're sort of new to Globus or you want to have another sort of look at things with us, please join us for that.
Thank you. I don't see any questions in the Q&A or in the chat. We've got a quiet group, a large group, but a quiet one. Oh, got a brave person here. Justin Moore, are there research data classification capabilities in Globus?
So there's nothing built in that will sort of automatically do that based on rules, or if that's what you're thinking, I guess I need to understand a little bit more in depth what's behind your question. But we basically give you the tools by which to implement very fine-grained access controls and compliance policies, along with the associated audit trails and so on. But it's really up to the institution to decide which data sets, which parts of what storage system, etc., are protected versus not, and under what regimes. But we're always very happy to consult with folks on that. I've actually been doing a lot of that with a couple of large R1s of late, who are setting up secure enclaves and want to understand sort of what are the implications and how it'll affect the user experience for their researchers. So please do feel free to reach out. That's something that we're more than happy to do it, and it's at no cost to the institution.
Any other questions? Yes.
The one I see that in the Q&A, yes, absolutely. The workshop is geared to be introductory. So we're going to sort of do a Globus 101. If you've never seen or used Globus, that'll be a perfect way to sort of get your feet wet. Yeah.
Remind us, Voss, where that workshop is being held?
It's online.
Okay.
So, oh, I'm sorry. They're asking about the June workshop. I'm thinking of, so I was actually talking about the Globus World tutorials, which will be introductory. The June workshop, maybe Susan, who's been working more closely with the Internet2 folks, can talk about what the agenda is. I forget what the first one was.
Yeah, that will actually be an online workshop as well. And so we're just finalizing content for both of the dates that were noted for June and August.
Okay, and are those appropriate for those who are not using Globus yet? Or both of those?
Yeah, the first one's actually more of an introductory one, so absolutely. So that or the workshops or classes that we're holding online in advance of Globus World on April 17th would also be great to attend. But yeah, definitely the first one in June for people who are less familiar with Globus, as well as our online workshops in April.
Okay, thank you. It looks like we've been able to answer all the questions, but certainly you have information there to send messages to the NET Plus team or to Globus directly if you do have other questions. And with that, I think we're ready to wrap it up and give people a little bit of time back. So thank you all for joining and look forward to seeing you at another event. Thanks for all the participants and presenters. Have a good day.